Magic players, welcome back. Now we've alphabetically gotten down to Firewave, which is potentially considered the worst deck in the game. So we're going to take a look at this deck. Maybe it is that bad, maybe it's not that bad, and we're going to see a couple little options. And in my opinion, there's two ways to really build it. You can build it the standard way, which is probably the deck that everyone thinks isn't very good, and thus why it's the worst deck. Or you can do your best with it and try and have fun and hope that it works out, which I figure, you know what, if it's going to be the worst deck, we're going to try and have some fun and have things work out properly. However, there are some cards that, regardless of whatever you want to attempt to do with this deck, they are auto-include. Grim Lavamancer is auto-include. He's one of the best one-drop creatures of all time, as he will never really stop burning somebody in the face. You'll never see him coming. He'll just destroy all the little weenie dudes, or he can nuke you in the face, and when you're playing a bunch of spells, your graveyard's always going to have stuff in it. Disintegrate, another epic card. It's great for getting rid of phoenixes and zombies that don't want to go away. And then, let's see what else. How do I want to do this here? Oops, not Final Fortune. Final Fortune, you're one of my favorite red cards, and you suck in this deck. Right now we're just putting in the mandatory cards that I don't really want to talk about. And then we'll talk about everything else, is where we're going to get. Dun, 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 dun. There we go. Okay, so now we have all the mandatory cards in here that regardless of what you're doing, you're running these guys. And I guess I'll just briefly go over them. Disintegrate, it's an X cost removal spell that exiles the dude, and it can't regenerate. So that's amazing. It's disintegrated. It's gone. It's not coming back like Cell. He doesn't have, your creatures don't have Mr. Piccolo regeneration skills. Searing Spear, I can't believe they only gave us one, but you run it. It's Incinerate. That doesn't, well, regeneration's irrelevant in this game. So it's not quite Incinerate, but you run it. Phoenix, it's a creature with flying that never comes back and has haste, and that's how you win games. Spitfire, it's a slightly larger creature that gets really out of control if crazy things are happening. Flame Break, wipe the board, save yourself the game. It's amazing. Flames of the Firebrand, card advantage. By definition, you play one card, you do things up to 3 cards. You can hit people, you can hit creatures. It's amazing. Browbeat, 3 damage. Usually when you cast Browbeat, they just accept the 5 damage, and that's the right play. To which at that point, 3 mana for 5 damage to the face, you take that any day of the week. Because eventually, against a burn deck, they're not going to be able to afford that anymore. So that's what makes it really powerful. If they don't want to do that, you draw 3 cards. And that's also crazy good. Talk about card advantage. 1 card for 3 that fills you up with a creature, a land, and a burn spell for, I don't know, let's just say that that's what happens. And it accelerates your hand. It gives you all sorts of options. You run Browbeat. And the promo unlocks are going to give us a second Browbeat, so you absolutely run that second one too. They'll give us another Disintegrate as well. So yeah, we're going to run both of those in the promo unlocks when they finally come out. Outrage. It's not the most fantastic spell, but it does kind of 2-for-1 a little bit. The 4 damage makes it really powerful. You can kill some larger threats that otherwise Burn just has no way to deal with. The 2 damage to the player is kind of just gravy on your Thanksgiving dinner. It is instant speed as well, so if someone's trying to cast a Might of Oaks on a guy and kill you, you just go lol nope JK, kill you, and you take 2. So you kind of have to run it. And Inferno Titan is one of the best red creatures of all time. All the Titans by themselves are, well, they're titanic. They are just very, very powerful. He makes an immediate impact when he hits the board, either dealing damage to player or wiping out some weenie chumps. And should he ever get the chance to not be removed and attack the next turn, he deals another free, see that ability, what was it called? Flames of the Firebrand. He gets a free Flames of the Firebrand when he comes in and when he attacks. So if you can nuke all the blockers in the way, he then deals 6 points to the face, and you can pump up him for minimum 6 extra because you cast him at 6. So if we're talking, play him at 6, deal 3 to the face, next turn you play a land, you attack, 3 to the face, he's 6 to the face, you pump him up for 7, that's 19 damage in 1 turn from 1 card, essentially. So he gets up there pretty crazy, and he must be responded to immediately, or else he will win the game by himself. So he's just that good. And that's really where we leave off to. This game doesn't really have much in the way of late game. I'm going to throw him in there right now and talk about him when we get there. Well, I'll talk about him now. Hostility, he's got a little bit of a downside. He's a fat creature with haste, so if you're in trouble, he can win the game by itself. His ability is very precarious, though. If a spell you control would deal damage to an opponent, prevent that damage. But you get a 3/1 haste into play, and it doesn't go away. It's not like it just sacrifices itself like a weak-ass ball of lightning. It stays there until someone deals with it. So if you Searing Spear somebody to the face, or let's just go Flames of the Firebrand. If this guy's on the field, and then you Flames of the Firebrand like a 2-drop creature, and then 2 to their face. Instead, you kill the 2-drop creature, you get 2 3/1s into play, and then everything can attack. So he has potential to just triple the value of your spells. And as we can end up seeing, he can do even more than triple, depending on what you have on the field as well. It can potentially hurt you if they are at 5, and you have a Lava X in your hand. You can't kill them, you have to try and get there with creatures. Granted, you'll get 15 power worth of creatures, and he still must be dealt with, but, you know, like, that's there, so whatever. I think he's an auto-include because he's crazy, he gets out of hand, he must be dealt with. And, like, it sucks having 6-cost cards in your hand early. Well, if he's discarded due to, like, a Black Cat or a Dimir deck, he goes back, you know, so whatever. He makes nice fodder to get rid of, if you have to. So now here we go. Red decks are all about burn, which means you probably want to include as much burn as you humanly possibly can. So now, let's look at all the burn. Pillar of Flame, it's burn included. Flame Slash, burn included. Reverberate, burn, essentially burn. You can copy a counterspell, you can copy a murder, you can copy their divination, you can copy your own burn spell. There's just too much stuff you can do with it, so I think it's must run. Wild Guess, we'll get to Wild Guess in a second. Staff of the Mage, I guess you could in this deck, but no, please don't. Fire Shrieker we'll get to later. Vortex, I'll throw one in there right now. Second Assault, I'll throw that in there right now. Where's more burn? Where's more burn? See, there's very little burn in this deck. And then we're looking at Kona Flame, which, because it has to be different creatures or players. So sure, you can always throw 1 damage to the player, and then 2 damage to a creature, and 3 damage to a creature. It doesn't always work out as equal as you want it to, and there are times when you actually have to deal 1 damage to your own creature just because you need a target, so that you can deal 2 to the other player and 3 damage to a creature. Like it's tough. I think it has to be included because it's burn and we need as much burn as possible, but do not hesitate to take this out if you are not satisfied, in the slightest. And then Lava Axe, it's only to the face. You cannot burn creatures, and it's a sorcery. So as far as burn spells go, it's very bad, but this deck kind of needs them, but we'll look at that later. So here we are, we're at 47 cards. We have a couple big threats. We got all the burn we can possibly get out there. We got a couple of good creatures, and we're just trying to deal out as much death as we can. So where do we want to go from here? This is where you can make a couple different builds. One build would be with Sulfuric Vortex, just trying to get damage anywhere and everywhere and try and suicide yourself down as well. So that's one option. The other option is Seismic Assault, which it's weird to think of building a deck around a 1-of in a 60-card deck. However, let me take a drink, my throat's killing me. Doing like 7 of these in a row is not good for you. Anyway, it's tough to build your deck around a 1-of at the same time, so I understand if a lot of people don't want to bother with it, especially because it alters the way you play your hand on the thought of what if I draw it, and some people don't like feeling that they're gimping themselves for a 1-of card. However, when it does hit the field, it's crazy powerful. So I feel like it's worth running just for the potential of what it can do. It can single-handedly win games. Outside of casting Inferno Titan and Hostility, and I mean Kona Flame can definitely go if you want it to, outside of those 2 things, you have no need to play more than 4 or 5 land on the field at any time. So if you want to hold a couple of land in your hand, that's great, because now they are instant shocks. You don't have to tap land for it. You can do it at any time when somebody's not expecting it, and that's really the definition of Magic. That's having fun. That's doing crazy things. That's card advantage. And that's what you want to be doing. So I think it's a must run for those reasons, even though the fact that you get to use this and have it be effective will not happen very often, simply because it will be rare to draw. I think it's worth the inclusion right there. And that brings us to... Nope, we talked about everything else here. You know, I'm just going to screw Kona Flame. Just get out. I don't want to look at you. Just get out. Where were we now? Where were we? Oh yeah, we were at this part. Okay, so now we get to the creature aspect. This deck, ironically enough, gets beat in the face by aggro, so Goblin Arsonist is a little bit of a way around that. He potentially doesn't really fit in very well later on in the game, but he saves you early on. You have to run at least 2. He makes great chump block fodder. He can ping stuff people might not want to attack in because of him, especially if you're holding land and holding cards. They might think, geez, if I attack, he blocks and then pings me, and then he can shock me, and then I lose my, you know, whatever. And then he can use the dead body that wasn't there for Lavamancer and do some more stuff. You have to run at least 2. I feel like you just do. You probably should run all 3, but during the course of this video I'm going to end up with over 60 cards, so I'm just going to leave 1 out for now. If you wanted to run a creature heavy build instead of like Seismic Assault and Sulfuric Vortex and trying to just spam damage and just try and counter aggro with creatures, then I guess you would run this guy because he's 2 and he has 2 power. That's really it. Torch Fiend, along the same lines, you're never going to destroy him for artifacts, but if you really want to run heavy creatures, you might find space for one of them. Kiln Fiend, however, auto-include. I just wanted to hold off on a little bit, because he is all about, you know, doing fun things. If they're afraid they have like a big guy, a nice 5/5, or especially a 4/4 hanging out, they're thinking, you know, can he kill me with Kiln Fiend? Because all he has to do is shock my creature, and Kiln Fiend gets bigger, and then my guy just suddenly sucks and dies. Or if you're attacking with 3 or 4 creatures, do you bother blocking Kiln Fiend as a 1 power? Because if the guy's got 5 land in play and 4 cards in his hand and you don't block Kiln Fiend, what if it's... So what do we have here? What if it's a Disintegrate for 0 with a Reverberate and a Searing Spear? You know, there's 6... Well, yeah, just 6 damage from the spells, but then he gets +9 from you casting stuff. There's 16 damage because you didn't want to block a random 1-of guy. You know, he has potential to have things go out of control. Final Fortune is one of my favorite red cards of all time, but it is terrible in burn decks. Just don't run it in burn decks, because the only time you need to draw this card is if you're like, oh crap, I'm going to lose. I hope I draw or have Final Fortune in my hand so that I can hope to draw a burn spell next turn. Maybe just have this be a burn spell in the first place. Granted, we've already included all the burn spells, so be it. It would be better off as just a random 2-power creature, so if you had this early, it doesn't kill you. I love the card. For lulz, I feel like I would play a 61 card deck just to have this, but then also, if you're at 61 and you draw this, the card that you would get with Final Fortune you would have already gotten, because that would have been your 60th card as opposed to your 61st card. So I don't know, just don't play it. Wild guess, it's weird to have red draw cards, but you kind of have to run this. Whether you're using Seismic Assault or not, an extra land is a potential target. Filling up the graveyard with stuff is a potential target. Discarding a Phoenix early on, perhaps, or discarding Hostility early on, knowing that you can potentially get them back later, can always work out. If you are playing against a deck that is very fast and aggro, you do not want Sulfuric Vortex. You would only really want this against Life Gain or Eldrazi. Maybe to a lesser extent something else that's a little bit slower, not quite sure. But if you happen to have Sulfuric Vortex in your hand and you realize, oh look, I'm playing Illusions, that card will not help me, get rid of it. Draw 2 cards, you know, get an extra burn spell, an extra land, you know, whatever. It's pretty solid. Pilgrim's Eye, Pilgrim's Eye is where things get weird. The card by itself is bad. It's bad, it serves as a chump blocker, it doesn't accelerate you because it gets it into your hand. However, if you're playing Seismic Assault, discarding a land card, getting a land card into your hand, it works too well together. And it never hurts to have more land than you need, even if you don't have this or don't play with it. So if you do play with Assault, I feel that it's worth running at least 2 of them, if not all 4. Despite the fact that he's bad, and you certainly have better things to do. He can just be a chump blocker, you know, whatever, I don't know. Maybe he can ping in there for 1 damage if you're trying to play a game where you just want to race and not even give 2 shits of caring about anything. Maybe you can ping 2 or 3 points through the air over the course of the duration of the game, and that might be enough. He's not very good. I'm not trying to argue that he is good, but he has synergy to potentially work really well with your plan. So include at least a couple, especially if you're using Seismic Assault. If you're not, then you can probably get rid of him. So there we go. Firecat. He's really just defense. Despite the 4-1 doesn't look very defensive, but because of that, people are just going to leave like the random Doom Traveler sitting back. And it's like, oh, I'm not going to attack if you have a Doom Traveler. So that leaves him sitting here to block something else, and with his 4 power lets him kill something larger. That's really what he's there for. If you happen to burn away all of their creatures that are in the way, then sure, he's fantastic. So in a creature-heavy build, go for it. Otherwise, probably skip out. Fire Shrieker. It's not very good, but again, if you're playing nothing but like every single freaking creature possible, this can potentially go out of control. If you put it on, you know, one of the guys we just talked about, we're talking 8 damage at that point. Granted, that's a lot of mana. You have to cast the creature, cast the artifact, equip it. You know, that's a lot right there. But again, if you're playing a heavy creature build, throwing in 1 or 2 of those might not be terrible. Putting crap like this on Inferno Titan, game over. On a Kiln Fiend or on that other Phoenix, the Spitfire, it can win the game immediately. So it's got potential consideration depending on how you want to play. Sulfuric Vortex again. I don't know if I would run 2 because it doesn't always benefit you. It's sometimes it doesn't always come into play, especially because this deck just doesn't quite have the muscle other decks have, and not many decks try and gain a lot of life. Having just 1 is probably better. I feel yeah, having just 1's probably better. Firewing Phoenix. It's a 4/2 flying, which is good both defensively and offensively, and it can come back if you really, really need it to. Being able to cast it, bring it back later, casting it again later, that's a lot of mana and time commitment, but if that's what you're having to do, you're very glad that you have the opportunity there. So that's what the Phoenixes are all about. They just don't die. Speaking of Phoenixes, we're going to look at this one. He's a Flame Break on a stick, really. He has to be responded to as a 3/3 flyer. You can kill him yourself with a spell if you need to nuke the board. You know, you can kill him by blocking bigger stuff. You can kill him by having him attack into bigger stuff. He's just got lots of options, and he can really nuke a weenie board, and that's something that this game needs more of, because there's too many aggro decks, there's not enough wipes. Phoenix does that, and again, he comes back. You'll probably never make it happen, but he can, is the thing. And now we're looking at 3 cards left, and this is where things get even more dicey. There's a couple ways to go about it. You can pop a Furnace of Wrath, which doubles all damage, which is crazy. Be very damn careful, but things can go crazy. Likewise with Fire Servant, he's a Furnace of Wrath for just you, or just your spells I should say, and he's a creature, so people are going to look at him and absolutely feel must remove, must remove. The problem is, those cards work best with things like Lava Axe or Kona Flame, and then we're talking so much high cost stuff, and we don't really have the space for it either. But I mean, if you have Furnace of Wrath and a Fire Servant out there, Lava X kills them in 1 turn. Furnace doubles it, Fire Servant doubles it, 5 to 10 to 20. The game is over. So it really just depends on your build, on how you want to go through it. If you want to play the Seismic Assault variant and just trying to get land, or if you want to ditch all this crap, come back here. You know, you don't want Wild Guess to discard cards, you want to keep all your cards. Let's say you want to get rid of, I don't know, I guess at this point now we've got plenty of space. Add the Furnace, add these 2 things, Add the 3 Lava Axe, and now we have 1 card remaining for something. I guess Kona Flame. Is there any other burn spell? Or maybe Sulfuric Vortex? Because Sulfuric Vortex with Furnace of Wrath is crazy. People take 4 damage a turn. So yeah, like there's various ways to build it if you want to just go insane damage to the face at all times, or if you want to play it a little bit more methodical, a little bit slower paced, and just try and use Seismic Assault to kick some butt. Where is Seismic Assault, by the way? Where did it go? Did I take it out? I shouldn't have taken it out. Okay, good, I left it in there, because Seismic Assault with Furnace of Wrath as well is still absolutely crazy. You know, you discard a worthless land card, you don't need 4 damage, alright. So, that's the bonus of other ways you can build this thing. I love how I said I would be over 60, but I ended up being under 60, I guess because I just removed a bunch of stuff that I don't really want to remove. Like, I want to keep the Pilgrim's Eyes, so I guess you can keep those, you can keep Wild Guess, and this is where it just gets tough. Like, do the Arsonists stay? Because if your goal is late game burn, Arsonists don't fit that, but they're still just way too good. Kiln Fiends don't really fit that either at that point. Maybe drop 1. Excuse me. Potentially pop out the Vortex. You can potentially get rid of something on the higher end here if you don't like Furnace being too risky. You know, get rid of maybe Hostility if you just want to burn to the face. So maybe pop down 1 land. There's a couple of different options you can go with that. Same likewise with the heavy creature build if you want to do that. I feel like you have to run at least 1 Lava Axe though. The potential to draw it is just too much. Let's take out Furnace for a second. Let's take out a couple of these for a second, just because. Take out Wild Guess for a second. If we were trying to go aggro, just for lol, just for lolling, just for rafflecoptering in people's faces. Let's see here. Put these guys back in. Oh yeah, put in the Arsonist. Oh, and the Arsonist I forgot too, so we're still sitting there. So yeah, if you wanted to go like an aggro-based thing, you know, with all the creatures you can muster, you could do something more like that. Maybe take out 1 Fire Shrieker. You probably would take out Seismic Assault at that point, and just run even less land, and hope that you never really draw too much, because you don't want too much. You know, so there's a lot of different ways to build it, but hopefully what you decide is that you want to build something fun, or build something with a plan, and stick to it. Even if it means cutting a couple copies of good cards, like cutting an Arsonist, or cutting a Fiend, or a Kiln Fiend, to make your other stuff just be more coherent. If that's what it means, go for it. Just, this deck is considered one of the worst decks in the game, so you know what, if you're gonna use it, you're trying to have fun, you're trying to see what you can make happen, play some damn Magic. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh no, we forgot. Man, I'm really bad at this. What do we get in the promos? We get another Furnace of Wrath, a random 2-drop creature, meh, another 2-drop creature with Bloodthirst, so that helps support the aggro build. Relentless Assault, again, helps support the aggro build, but if you really want to run aggro, you probably should just use the other decks. So your only thought would be, I want to run aggro, but I don't want to run the OU stuff, the overpowered crap. Whatever. Cyclops Gladiator, meh. Flame Wave, meh. Flame Blast Dragon, he can definitely go in as a late game bomb regardless. A second Browbeat, and another Disintegrate. So only 2 cards I would say that are must add, the Browbeat and Disintegrate, and then the others really just depends on your build. So that's where we are. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know in your comments or suggestions your opinions on what you think, any questions you have, and start using this deck and any other deck and kick some ass, guys. Take it easy. Peace.